right. Hello, great one. And whoever is going to be watching this in a later time, this is the JimboHater Variety Hour working title. I am JimboHater. Here's my co-host. I'll let him introduce himself.
What's up? Brian hates you. Doctor hates. Hater.
Hates everything. And so for this test run of this radio show podcast thingamajig, we're going to be talking about WUFL, the Ukraine tournament series that just wrapped up. And we're going to focus on Soul Calibur, but I'm sure we'll mention MK and Tekken in reference to it as well. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. What was your
Yeah.
general reaction to the event as a whole?
General reaction. So, first and foremost, like the biggest takeaway is that holy shit, it was so nice to see. It was nice to see offline caliber. It was nice to see high level matches. Um, it was nice to see just stuff that was like intense. It was really enjoyable to watch. And then of course, an American won, which is appropriate. Uh, yeah, I mean, like obviously, duh. Like the forces of good triumphed over the forces of international socialism.
Is
So all
France
of that,
socialist?
yeah,
Okay.
ew. So all of that was phenomenal. And so like thinking about how we have been just starved for this stuff for the last calendar year, that was huge, and it was so nice to have it. So that was like the first thing, number one with a bullet right there in my head. Like I kind of needed that.
Right.
I sense a but though.
No, I'm just listening. So yeah, like you
Well,
needed that. I agree.
yeah.
We everyone is starved for offline, and everyone wants to hop into offline, but there's still this apprehension because the world is what it is. But I know WUFL. That's what I'm going to call them for purpose of this podcast. They were very thorough. You needed a positive or a negative test, COVID test, to travel, and then they tested you again when you got there, and then they tested you a third time before you leave. So they were very thorough in all that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that sort of thing. Like I wasn't too taken aback by either the protocols or the fact that people were traveling for this. Just because like I know a lot of folks who have like really. So while most of us were hunkering down and be like, oh hey, there's a once in a generation pandemic that's like burning through the world. I know a bunch of people who saw that as a great opportunity to just go vacationing constantly. So I've been in touch with people who have done a lot of traveling and they've dealt with the protocols and things of that nature. So like people know how to do it. Not like not perfectly safely, but they know how to do it in a safer way. And it seems like our Wolfle friends did all that, as well as could be expected. And they had a big prize pool, and so they got people to go to it. That's like I'm relatively cool with that, but like I know in talking to you about this before the show, there were kind of other ancillary issues that came up that maybe were I don't know how to say it. There were things that like over and above, like even in a non-COVID time, there were things that people are kind of questioning about the way that this was done.
when you say that, do you mean behind the scenes production, player choosing? Uh, be a little bit more specific.
Yeah, well, so
I don't want to get
again,
into the money yet. I want to save that
Uh,
for a little later.
oh, you don't want to get in the okay, yeah, because I was tipping my hand a little bit because we did talk about this a little bit ahead of time, but no, we can start with I guess more of just like what does it mean to have an event like that with like a decent prize pool, kind of to my mind came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Um,
no one
yeah,
was really expecting it. There have been a few events by other companies like Namco itself, or I think ESL was another one that hosted, or WSOE. That was the thing that hosted. Okay, so I might as well be talking French to you.
Yeah, you're
WSOE.
spitting letters at me in a way that is just really making me uncomfortable. So
Sorry, man. There was that, and then there was the the Bud Light Beer League as well.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
But this came out of left field, and it was the first to really attempt a invitational format. And I enjoyed the show. We'll backtrack a little bit on that. I enjoyed the show. Was there a match in particular that stuck out in your head?
Oh God. So honestly, for me, I'm biased as hell. Like every match of Party Wolves, I loved. Like he's like whatever. He's like my favorite player. Um, and so it was really fun to watch him play and do smart shit and beat people. Like especially like during the round robin phase, like
Hmm.
crushing people's souls. Like that that made me very happy because it was this display of excellence when I tune in to watch what is ostensibly supposed to be high level play. That's the kind of thing that I want to see. You want to see like what does this look like at the highest levels? What does this look like when people are just firing on all cylinders and executing to the best of their abilities? And because it's not like it's not like beating up on some kind of like handicapped kids. Like these were people who were these are people who were no slashes doing their best, and their best was just like nothing.
Right.
and and so that that sort of thing is like really really exciting.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
with all that said, I do want to draw attention. What was going through your head during the skill party wolf set?
Oh boy. Well, which one? Like,
Well, the one party wolf lost. In was it losers semis, losers finals?
oh god.
It was a first of
Yeah.
three, so losers finals.
Yeah. No. That one. That was not a fun viewing experience. Um. Like I felt a great pressure building like in my esophageal tract, and it just got lower and lower and lower, uh, until it was just no good for anybody. But no, it's one of those things where when you have really good players, like uh, they they both put on. It was a hell of a show, a really good match. It was one of those things where uh, like when you think about people who are executing at that level, um, the margins are so narrow. And that's why like big swings, it looks like, oh, well, he got up so many games and there was this comeback. Like if you actually stop and break it down, it's like no, like every single match came down to a handful of really like really sort of subtle fiddly things, and those can those can hinge on one really like quick decision in the moment and so on and so forth. And so like to my mind it was less swingy than I think people probably thought it was. It felt like
Yeah.
really really close throughout, and it was the narrowest of things. Like total, it could have been a total coin flip, but it was a really good, really dramatic type of match. It's the sort of thing that makes for, particularly if you don't have a rooting interest, it makes for really good viewing.
I agree. I agree. I will give you a bit more
Because I'm right.
some more substantial of conversation in a bit, but I agree. It was a great show. Had a lot of fun watching it, and yeah, there was a lot less big hits and more scrappiness than I thought would be in there. I think about woes a lot of 2A, a lot of 1B, a lot of that one
Yeah.
low kick that I think is plus on hit, not sure. Just a lot of low small pokes with containment in mind.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that like that's a really crucial observation, I think, because um like because SC6 it's a pretty high damage game, especially when you consider the characters who we most often see winning just like out in the wilderness, right? But what was really interesting was that when you take a handpicked group of some of the most most accomplished tournament players in the world, put them together, so much of it came down to just core fundamentals: AABB, 2A, 2K, um, building those tiny marginal advantages and then trying to hang on to them for the duration of a match, as opposed to just going for it like a crazy person.
do you think there were any crazy persons in this event?
Uh, yeah, but they didn't last.
Okay. I mean, you made a point saying that this is a group of some of the best in the world, and just you said there's only a lot of 2A, 2K, AA, that kind of stuff. But you know, uh, some people would disagree with the quality of some of the players. I feel you could make a case that you had, let's just say, for lack of a better number in my head, you have eight. These eight people are pretty inarguable in being some of the best. And then from there, it got you could argue it, and I know a lot of that is based on just circumstance. X couldn't travel, B didn't want to travel, this, that, and the other. Uh, what do you think about the selection of players that had a lot riding on them to prove themselves? And did they do it or not?
So, what do I think about the selection of players? So what do you mean by the first part of that question? Like, can you unpack that a little bit for me?
What I mean by the selection of players.
Yeah. Like, you said, what do I think about the selection of players who had a lot to prove themselves? Do you mean like what do I think about the players who maybe we wouldn't have expected to be on a first ballot Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that's a bit more specific, I'd say.
Yeah, like whatever. It's they like the WUFL people wanted to, you know, they wanted to have a curated event, and I think that there are a lot of pros and cons associated with that. Um, it was it was interesting because they tried to have a curated event in a time where it is just really really hard to do that, and so you had to had to go like find the next man up, so on and so forth. Um, I don't I don't necessarily care that that some of the people were not not on the same level, like because if it had been if the format had been slightly different and there wasn't like a day one weed out uh like round robin type of thing
Mhm.
to get those people out of the later bracket, then I might have felt a little bit differently because because anything can happen and so on and so forth. But I think the structure of it was like, look, we got to fill this many spots. They got enough people who were really at that elite level, that it all just kind of worked out in the end. Now, had they done this like under different circumstances, like yeah, I would have loved to have seen 16 killers, absolutely. But like, I think they did okay, all things considered. Like it's hard as hell to get people to travel in a pandemic. It's hard as hell to get gamers to get their shit together and get passports.
Yeah.
Like you have to like the logistical challenge of that is near insurmountable. Like,
Especially, I'm sure everything takes even longer in COVID land if you're trying to do something in a bureaucratic sense, yeah?
oh Lord, yes. So all that said, like if we're talking about like the quality of what was on display, I was super thrilled, and like really it inspired me to uh it inspired me to kind of like pick things up and take it more seriously again. I've been screwing around for the last however many weeks, and I was like, oh wow, okay, like this game is actually like really compelling when it's played well, and we had enough of that in one place that I think it ticked that box.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay. Let's transition. Because I think luckily we are and most people are in agreement that the event was a blast to watch, and we love offline caliber and we clamor for it back. With that said, do you think this invitational format has more steam in it going forward,
Mm.
or given the potential, you know, COVID prognosis, do you think other events will return by the time they can get a season two back up?
So that's the can of worms. Like invitationals, do we like them or not? Um, so I just said that they had a curated roster of people that produced like a really good, very watchable product that I thought was it was quite excellent, right? Amazing. And and invitationals are very much in line with what we see from other hashtag esports type of things, like other games where you have whether it's leagues or but whatever, it's very in group out group. And I don't know how I feel about that actually. So one of the things that I find most like one of the things I find most like compelling and reassuring. I just use the word compelling, but whatever, same thing. One of the things I like the best about our seedy little hobby is that it's built on a foundation of open tournaments, and anybody can show up and just and if you can bust people's asses, then like there's no arguing with that. Um, I like my own personal experience. I showed up at I showed up at Evo a couple of years ago, and I was like not in practice and not holding myself to the standard that I used to, but I played well, and I think I got to I was like I don't know, I think I got to like 14th or something, or somewhere around there. And I was like, wow, that was cool. No one, I'm an old man. I'm retired and irrelevant. I never would have had a chance in an invitational format. And the same is true for a lot of people. I think we're probably, interestingly, because I don't know how WUFL thought about this stuff, but if you're just going by, let's say, online tournament activity and things like that, like I think you could have made, if you had access to all the possible players in the world, you could have made an argument not to include woes like before this event took place.
Well,
So yeah,
let's pause there because you made a point to not invite Woes because Woes doesn't have a huge online tournament presence.
mhm,
But he did win the one beer league, so at least he has something on the
yeah,
board. Um, so does that mean for like say hypothetically, COVID mutates into super COVID and we're locked down for another year. Let's just say hypothetically,
oh,
and
love
so
Super COVID.
super COVID, and
Yeah,
then WUFL is going back to season 2 and they're vetting players and going through who they want to invite. Do How much weight should your online credits have? And if they do have weight, does the weight increase with more placings, or does it matter that you just won like a big one with this certain like label, like Bud Light or at WSOE or whatever? What does that mean?
yeah. See, like that's the kind of argument that I don't want to wade into because I
Hmm.
have no idea.
Right.
Because the online stuff is grody, like for any number of reasons. Like there's some element of legitimacy to it and some element of fugazi bullshit to it, and that's just like where we are. Um, and so if you're trying to say like, because what you want to avoid when you have that or when you're trying to like extend just a limited number of invites to people, if you ever end up in a position where you're splitting hairs, like everyone's going to say yes and I can only extend this to like 8 people or like 4 people from a given region, whatever, and you have to say, well, it's this person or that person, who do I talk to, I don't know. Like I'm not sure how to resolve that stuff, and that's another weakness in the invitational system, because like what is a good model there. Like this person's been great online, this person has sort of a further reaching history of good offline placings, this person is like coming on strong recently, this person was good like let's say 3 months ago and then took some time off. Like I can't resolve those questions, and I
Hmm.
think that it's and I think that however you come to a conclusion there, you're going to be leaving out people who are very good, and that's like that I think does a disservice to the product that you're putting out there. Like people are not going to like what they're seeing as much if you don't have wall to wall good people, or if there's someone who's really good who gets left behind. Um, and so yeah, like you can kind of tell like where my bias is in terms of like what types of events we should have. Uh, and this is despite the fact that I really liked what we got from an invitational only event.
Okay. Um, trying to think. Do you think this? So let's say COVID subsides and we start transitioning back into regionals and maybe even majors, whatever.
Mm.
Um, do you would you be so in the grand FGC landscape? Where would you see events like WUFL be if events as we knew return? What is their role in all this?
Oh, see, that one's interesting too, because now we're talking about the business of esports, right?
Mhm.
Because so tell me, like, what was the, like, how did WUFL come about? Like, what caused this?
Truth be told, I don't know where it germinated, what the seed came through, but it just kind of showed up one day. I think I saw on Twitter that this
Mm.
esports company based in Ukraine, which that was weird to me. Of all the places to put it, it's going to be in Ukraine. And then they're just going to do these three invitational formats for MK, Tekken, and Soul Calibur. And it's esports, so they want to put a degree of professionalism of it. I don't know. Is this answering your question?
Yeah, a little bit. So, because you're saying that, what I'm hearing is that we have a lot of, like, former Soviet Eastern Bloc oligarchs who wanted to launder money, and they wanted to do it through the lens of video games, and they didn't want to have to fuck with Capcom licensing fees. So,
That
so
is the
that's
big
what I'm
one. Yeah.
hearing.
So
That's what I'm hearing you say.
I did not say that. I was going to get to it, but okay. So elephant in the room. This is the big question about this whole event: is who is footing the bill? Because from what I know, this was based in Kiev, Ukraine, and mind you, the casters were English English speaking, with the exception of say Kayane, but she speaks enough English, and James Banks, the host guy, he is not from Ukraine either.
Yeah.
So all these people, commentators, analysts, hosts, they're getting, I'm assuming, some piece of the pot. And then you also have to pay for flying the folks out, boarding them, I don't know, whatever other goodies they got. And then there's the $50,000 prize pool split between the top eight placers. And so, in lieu of this, as these as the WUFL series was happening, PCR Test 2, Party Wolf says, um, there came some news about one of WUFL's partners, 1xBet. And 1xBet, for all who don't know, is an online gambling website. You put money in, you gamble, you win, great. You lose, that sucks for you. But previous to them getting involved with esports, they were involved with like Liverpool, Chelsea, these giant soccer teams in the UK, and they became their principal partner for a while. But then shady business dealings happened, and then these soccer teams backed off from association with this group. And I have a clip here I can play, but long story short, what it appears to be is that I don't know how they determine who to steal from, but it appears that, say you win a bet, it is incredibly difficult and near impossible, allegedly, for you to be able to withdraw that bet. So either two things happen. A, you give up and the money's lost there forever, or according to some of these user reviews about the service and the website, sometimes they just take the money and run, and you don't know who to go to, you don't know how to do anything about that. And I remember you saying it's difficult to exact a lawsuit when the person you're suing is so far away.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is something where I can, I think, bring a little bit of perspective to this. Um, so when I first heard, like, oh well, they might be shady, and it seems like they are shady. Like, when it's like you have a gambling company that's based out of Cyprus,
Well, yeah, so like they
like.
were, from what I gather, they were initially based out of Russia, but since they keep getting pegged by the authorities. They have to
Yeah.
keep moving to avoid laws. I think, according to the video that I guess I'll link, the owners of the company are wanted fugitives, and so they fled to these tax havens in order to avoid persecution.
Yeah, it's sick.
Which is like, really? This video games? Okay,
Look,
interesting.
that's something like, look, I aspire, like, someday I would like to create a company that is too sketchy for Russia. Like, because I think that's how you know you're doing it right. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, but no, realistically, like, this does not alarm me.
Hmm.
Uh, it, but it does raise some kind of interesting questions. So specifically here, like, there are a few things that I think have to be considered. Number one, this is a company that has historically partnered with legit sports orgs. Um, and so they're really good at storytelling. They must be. Like, that's the thing, is you don't go and you don't get a sponsorship deal with like meaningful, like, European football clubs without being able to tell a good story and seem buttoned up. So I'm not gonna fault anybody, like, on the WUFL side. I'm not gonna fault them for like partnering with these people, because these guys obviously know how to do, like, the business development side of things. Um, and further, like, look, if you're thinking about creating a, like, an online gambling website, yeah, the whole purpose of that business is to get people to put money in your ecosystem and not let them take it out. And there is a fine line between making it challenging and then doing criminal things to hold on to it. And so, yeah, there are certain jurisdictions that got all grumpy with it. Uh, but the question that I have is, like, how does that reflect on, on what we watch? Do we care? Does that somehow tarnish things? Because, to my mind, it doesn't. Like, I got to see some really good Soul Calibur matches, and I don't actually care if, if I had to, like, see a little crawl at the bottom of the screen that was like, gamble on this.
I mean, yeah, I'm not inherently opposed to gambling. If you I mean people do it in person all the time at these events. It's part of the
uh,
culture in a way.
Moralizing Jimbo, like,
I'm
this.
just okay. What?
No. I hear you say this, but I feel like you're a bastion of purity in a way that I am not. So,
Okay, so what I'm concerned is the so say I am Woes and I just won WUFL. I'm entitled. Again, I don't know how entitled we are because I'm not aware of what contracts, if any, were signed about this. So are they even contractually obligated to pay you out? And if so, when? But Sam Woes, I just win $15,000. Where is it coming from? Because it's not Namco, it's not sponsors we know. It's this shady betting company, allegedly, perhaps, from who's done all these weird activities. So it puts a shroud of doubt over the legitimacy of the money I'm getting. Am I getting stolen money? Am I getting fundraised money? Am I getting, Bill Gates's donation? Where is this money coming from? And I feel if I am aware that this money is sketchy, that there are some shady dealings afoot, I I feel that puts you in a moral bind if you decide to take the money. Now, I can't say what I'll do in the moment, but I will say based on what I know now, and if I were invited, I would decline based on my moral standing on the money.
yeah. See, I don't share those moral qualms. I mean, like, look, man, if I could go to one of these things, I would choose to get paid in stem cells if they'd let me. I don't care. Uh, and I think the most important thing here is that, so actually there are a couple things that are important. Uh, Number one is that, to the extent that there's any kind of a contractual relationship that exists, like who's going to get paid, is the players are going to get paid by WUFL, whatever corporate entity they have. It's not going to be a direct transfer of money from the sponsor to the player.
Hmm.
Like, it has to funnel through this. So So to the extent that WUFL wants to be a legitimate entity, they're on the hook there. They have no history of criminality. Like the worst you could accuse them of is they got taken in by the same pitch team who took in like a big ass soccer club, which again I don't fault them for. Not a
Well,
big deal.
so on that though, there's more and more videos and tweets and stuff highlighting the issues with this. So has WUFL staff seen this, or are they choosing not to see it and we haven't seen it? What does that mean?
Yeah, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. Like, and I can tell you, like these kinds of deals usually happen pretty quickly. And look, in a mature organization, like if I'm, and I guess we should have introduced ourselves a little more on the front end because one of the things that I can kind of bring to this is I have spent a little bit of time as a business operator. Like I know how this shit works. Um, and in a real organization, you're going to do material diligence. You're gonna like dig into this stuff. You're gonna be really hyped because someone's giving you money, but you like, okay, what is the provenance of this money? Will they actually pay? What are the net terms and so on and so forth. Um, a lot of these upstart esports companies, I don't necessarily think that they operate that way. I don't think they have the kind of operational maturity that like a real business has. So maybe they didn't do that. I can definitely see a world in which, again, they saw a flashy presentation, saw like a big check, and were like, "Yo, let's do this."
Mhm.
And now maybe they're sweating a little bit, or maybe they're really savvy and they said, "Okay, great. You guys are in a rough place in terms of PR. We want the money up front so we can be well capitalized." I don't know. Like I have no visibility into that. But it's entirely like either of those things entirely. Oh wait, hold on. I'm looking at the chat. I see quotes here. One expect assures that the brand abides by all the relevant laws and regulations in every jurisdiction in which it operates. Oh well, they've assured people.
Yeah, what does
But
that mean? Like I don't.
yeah, but like at the same time, that's totally reasonable. Again, the money spends the same. If the check clears, you're good. You only need to really worry if you're not getting the funds that you're promised. And this is kind of the larger issue that I see, which is one of leverage and standing in these things. So, in a perfect world, and this is something you and I talked about previously, like in a perfect world, the players have a ton of leverage, or they should have a ton of leverage, uh, because they're the ones who are creating the content, right? Like, there is no WUFL if like sick fucking Soul Calibur players don't go there and play their guts out and give us like a really good show like we got. So ideally, they would be in a strong negotiating position to say like we want these contractual guarantees, we want these sort of things in writing, we want governing law in the United States of America, and a whole bunch of other ancillary considerations that would really like ensure that things go well, and they would do this ideally with a united front. Um, not like full on unionization, but something that's close enough if you squint at it. Uh, but the reality is, for a lot of people who are in this world of ours, like the shot at 15K, 15K is a transformational amount of money to a lot of people. It's in the business world, it's functionally nothing. It's less than a rounding error. But this is something where people like they want their shot at it, and it's super meaningful, and so they're potentially willing to put up with more shit. They're willing to get bullied a little bit. Um, and so you have a situation where players have very little leverage relative to the promoters and the organizers, who can always say, well, we'll just extend this invite to the next person. And then by the same token, you can also imagine a world in which the organizers have very little leverage relative to the sponsors because they want their event to be properly capitalized. And like that creates a relatively precarious value chain that is, if it all works out, that's great. And if something goes wrong, it's really, really hard to resolve it. And this is why we've seen versions of this with other events where people take a really long time to get paid, or sometimes they don't get paid because like maybe a promotion like goes under,
Some events
so on
haven't
and so
paid
forth.
people at all.
Yeah.
I think was that one tournament in New York a few years ago? Um, it's not Beast in the East, is it? Best of the East? I don't.
Who
Someone in the
knows?
chat will help me
Something of the
there.
East.
All I know is Linkor's won and he has not been paid, and it's been like 2 years at this point. So
Yeah, and that's like that is a risk that we run as players, and it really sucks. And I think more than any kind of, more than any kind of like, you know moralizing, or wringing out our aprons like, oh, this is so bad. Like the thing that worries me is that we're still continuing on this pattern of like, of players not having appropriate leverage, because this is the thing that I really want to see change, because like it's just like it's a system that is foundationally unfair, and kind of leaves the people who are creating the product, the people who are like doing like incredibly hard work, like the hard work of being excellent at a thing, they're being left to twist in the wind a lot of the time. Now, is that going to be the case here? Like, I don't know. The thing that worries me is that we have enough examples of this not working out historically, that like, I'm like, well, okay, shit. Like, I'm gonna be a little bit anxious for them until the checks clear.
I am too. To my knowledge, none of these checks have cleared yet, and it's been what 3 weeks now, which is not
Yeah.
terribly long, but it
Well,
is a
yeah. I mean,
palpable.
in the real world, you're gonna ask for stuff like net. So here's the thing. This is like, everyone like memorize this. Just say net 30. I want my terms in net 30. That means you have 30 days to pay me. After that, we have a legal problem. Like everyone should care about that. Like that, because if you don't get that in writing, like, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, and that's from what my sources tell me is that there wasn't much of that at all. And so, what do you do? Because, like you said, 15 grand is a transformative amount of cash for many gamers, and you want that chance to win it. But even if you do win, you don't know if you're gonna get it. So, do you what's the mode of action there? What do you do in say Blue Boy space? Like what are your options?
Like in this case, like, I don't know. Like, in this case, I think you just have to hope for the best. So, and again, like, I don't want to presume too much. I don't want to say, well, this is definitely not happening, or this is probably not happening, because we have no reason to believe that it wouldn't. The thing that I'm most concerned about is just sort of the operational model, wherein the players have so much less leverage than I feel like they ought to. Uh, but in the event that they didn't get paid, like, this sort of thing is really tough, because there are questions of like, who is the entity, or like, which entity owes you money, how are they structured, where are they incorporated, and what are the governing laws, like, because when this sort of thing happens, you're forced to take a legal solution, right? It's like a legal route. It's like, you didn't pay me, I'm gonna sue your ass. Well, where do I sue you?
Mhm.
And uh, when you have an event that is hosted in the Ukraine, that like WUFL, I don't know where they're headquartered, possibly in the UK, possibly in the Ukraine, um, and then they're owed money by a corporation that is operated, semi globally, but based in Cyprus. Like, again, like, the just the mere question of jurisdiction is like incredibly complicated. And so, like, is you as like a, imagine, you're a broke ass gamer person, like, it's not that hard to imagine. We've been there. I was there. I sure at no point in my life prior to this would I have felt comfortable pursuing a lawsuit in a foreign jurisdiction. So you just kind of have to hold it unless you're able to get a lot of good guarantees up front.
So you just gotta hold it. So I need to try to structure this question because I feel like it's an important question to ask. Because this currently is the only truly large monetary option for competitive play. You can't go to Combo Breaker, you can't go to CEO, you can't go to some other regional and attempt to win money by just showing up. You have to hope you're invited and then show up and try to win.
Mhm.
So, what it's a bind to be in because it feels like you're between a rock and a hard place. So, what is the play there? Just do your part and hope offline comes back in the way we know about it, or is this going to be the new economy?
See, I got 5 magic words.
Okay.
Workers of the world unite. Like
Okay.
communism. Uh, but well, no, but really, the the only thing that changes this, uh, the only thing that changes this is players presenting a united front. Um,
So like us mobilizing, saying we are the competitive Soul Calibur community. These are our standards. If
yeah,
you do not abide by them, we do not want to do business with you.
yeah, well, and that's so dangerous, right? Because
Where's the leadership held?
yeah, well, and they can always find like the next person, and this is sort of the foundational problem, right? Is because you want to like ideally you want to have people negotiating as a block. You want to have folks saying like these are the terms that we expect. We want to be treated fairly, and so on and so forth. Um, but like absent some kind of mechanism for collective bargaining, it's tough, and I don't think that you can solve it. I don't think you can solve it without that because you're kind of relying on the charity of other people. So to that end, it's like, well, the alternative is to say, look, this is my hobby. This is something that I am passionate about and I care about, and it means a lot to me. But this is not my career path, and I'm not going to put all my eggs in this basket. Like,
I won't talk about that at length, but I feel like that's a good topic for another show. Is the trajectory of someone who tries to make this a career and the feasibility of such and what a profile someone looks like when they're able to sustain that lifestyle. I can't help but think of Sonic Fox. He has made a fortune off fighting games and continues to do so.
yeah,
Uh, but okay, so I think this horse is sufficiently beaten, at least for now, about the mobilization and the money and what it means to take said money. So what we talked about previously was marketability, cross promotion was the note I had. So you said it was pretty irrelevant to the thing. So as people who have watched WUFL know, matches were usually interspersed with some kind of extra content. But in SoCal, I find this an odd juxtaposition, at least for me as a viewer. Caliber had BuzzFeed interviews, Tekken had boxing matches, and I can't help but think is that an image they want to create. Like that's the kind of crowd we want watching Tekken. Is the kind of crowd we want watching Caliber, or is this just happen to be? What do we do? Interview them. What do we do? I got some boxers here today. They're in town. Okay, great. Put them on. We'll make a show out of that. What does that mean? You know?
yeah. I don't think it's that insidious.
Okay.
And this is something we talked about this a little bit. Like first and foremost, um, I think that in some ways like some of the interlude content for Soul Calibur was like really doing the Lord's work because it was just Linkors dunking on a Frenchman, like just crushing him
Yeah,
at Jeopardy style trivia, and that's
as an
uh,
American, that's great, but
yeah.
like as a spectator, it was
It
very
was also as
strange.
an
It
American
was it
spectator,
was
it was
strange.
great.
It was strange. It was weird. I
It was
didn't
not strange or
laugh.
weird. Like the only thing that I would have thought strange or weird was if some French person like answered anything correctly. So no, it was expected, but it was a grand display. Uh, like yeah, no, like so. I mean, a couple things. So the Soul Calibur team tournament, I think, was kind of poorly thought out.
Mhm.
Uh, because they were like, okay, use characters that you don't know how to play, and that pretty much guarantees that your product is going to be bad. So like, oops. Um,
I feel it
eh,
would be bad in the sense as someone just channel surfing, and this is how they're being exposed to Caliber. I feel the Twitch community at large, the people who regular all these streams and tournaments, I feel they were able to have a stake in some fun in that. But then, was that the right call?
yeah. Well, look at chat. Yeah, it was meant to be funny bad, but I think it was just sort of like basically all of the times that Party Wolf wasn't screaming at people like in this blood curdling awful way, I was bored. When he was screaming like yeah, he sounded like a animal being eaten alive, and that was wonderful. But if he hadn't done that, then I think what we got was not like, it wasn't funny bad. It was just sort of hard to. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't like
Yeah,
good.
no, I'll be honest. I
Uh,
watched maybe 20 minutes of that entire day, and then I did other things.
yeah. Um. Yeah. So like, so that I think was a little bit problematic. Um. But yeah, so actually, so one of the things that you suggested, like people channel surf on Twitch. Is that how people discover this stuff? Like, because I kind of figured
Well, so
folks
it,
know what's happening and they seek it out, right?
well, I don't know how information travels in comparison to our
I'm listening.
community.
I've gone dry.
Okay. So I don't know how. I mean, I think his headphones are wireless. But I
Still
don't know
wireless.
how information travels on Twitter and in esport websites and other websites that post these pieces of information. I don't know. I lost the question. Talking to an empty chair.
Yep. Yep. No,
All right, welcome back.
chair's not empty.
All right.
Don't be foolish. I'm right here. Um. Yeah. Well. Well, but that's something to consider. It's like, how to like, do we as a community have any sense of how people like discover our shit? Because I kind of feel like we're primarily talking to people who play the game, right?
Mhm.
Like, there's some people will watch even though they don't play, or some people watch and they have played historically, but realistically, like, I don't necessarily know that we're going and just like intercepting people who are dinking around on Twitch and finding them. So that gives us, I guess, that gives us space to like have a more curated product.
Well, if we're not dinking around trying to pull eyes from areas on Twitch, how does the audience grow?
Great question. Like, how would you grow this audience? Because this is one of the foundational problems at the core of like esports generally, and in particular, this is fighting games and all that. Because the esports that have been successful are games that have just been widely popular for people to play, at least for short periods of time. Whether it's StarCraft, League of Legends, that kind of thing. They've really caught on and become like the fabric of society in certain East Asian nations and things like that. And then in the fighting games, Street Fighter draws a huge audience share just because so many people like pick it up and play it, and there's this combination of nostalgia and I've done this and so on and so forth. But within our little subculture, uh, there's not a it's odd, right? Because you would think that there are a lot of things that are accessible about watching fighting games, because it's this visceral, like, like,
How
I have a
important?
sword, I'm gonna hit you with it. But like,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
so this goes into a more complete package kind of point. So the gameplay was phenomenal, but so let's talk about personalities.
yeah.
Who in Soul Calibur is a highly marketable personality for something like this?
Hmm. Yeah.
'Cause again,
It,
I cannot help but think of Sonic Fox because he's just so.
yeah.
Sonic Fox is so unmistakable.
Sonic Fox is a G. Like like I have limitless respect for Sonic Fox and like what they have done. Um, like in Caliber, ooh, it's different. But actually, it's who's that person like who's that person in Street Fighter? Who's that person in Tekken?
Well, so I just posted some things in the chat, but I don't know. There just isn't much of a cult of personality around anyone in Caliber. And I don't know what I don't know what is causing this lack of cult of personality, but I feel this is difficult for me to articulate. I don't know where these personalities in Caliber are, and I feel maybe at times people are fearful to kind of exhibit some kind of bombastic personality in fear that they won't be seen in a positive light to these tournament organizers, which are currently only providing the only means in which to do offline competition. To which we talked about this prior, and you mentioned that despite all that, Sonic Fox continues to do all these Sonic Fox things. Sonic Fox always makes like a stamp of a signature on whatever Sonic Fox does. But I mean, just look at Sonic Fox. Seriously.
Yeah.
But compared to the Caliber heads, it's vanilla ice cream.
It's diet plain. Uh, but like so this is super interesting to me because it points to it, it points to this like what is probably a false dichotomy, but like one of the big things that I've noticed over the last half decade or more in fighting games is that people have thought about like how do I professionalize. How do we become more esports? I want to get that esports money. I want to like line myself up with that and so on. And and this project has had a number of forms, and like some of it has been you know probably some stuff that needs to happen. You got people like you know trying to like edit the N word out of their vocabularies and things like that, and that's I think it's for the best. But at the same time, we've had this we've had this like general motion toward a form of professionalization that like may not be the right target, honestly. Um, because the esports model has a lot of flaws in it. And as we talked about, like it's one in which players have precious little leverage. Um, and it's one that is kind of modeled off of uh, it's modeled off of some stuff that like may not actually make sense when you think about the history of fighting games. Like one of the things that drew me to this world, initially was people talked that good shit. Like everyone was just savage and brutal to one another, and I loved it because there's a whole point is like I'm gonna tell you the truth about yourself, and you're not gonna like to hear it. You're gonna get mad at that. I'm then gonna beat your ass in the game, and then you will have no other choice but to accept the truth about yourself and feel terrible forever. And then I feel good because I made you feel terrible. Like this is a wonderful, wonderful system, and it has been the lifeblood of our community for a very long time. And there's this idea that we have to like edit that out. We have to excise that and
Yes, you have to really be
yeah.
choosy with your words. You don't want to offend too many people.
Yeah, but and I think that comes at the expense of things being interesting
Hmm.
because what really stands out to me is that in the past there were like meaningful deep rivalries um and and so you would have people would play, and there would be like real stakes attached, even if there wasn't money. It wasn't just like, oh hey, good game, dude. It's like, I really don't like you.
Yeah, pride.
Yeah. And I love that. Like when I was a serious competitor, like a lot of basically everything I did, like I tried to be like Ric Flair. Like I modeled myself after wrestling heels, and I was just as obnoxious as I could possibly be, and let people know like how garbage they were, because that would induce them, to money match me and stuff like that. But it made it more interesting. And we're at a place now where there's not a lot of room for that, I don't think.
It's interesting you say that because wrestling is a common comparison that comes up with at the FGC as a whole, the spectacle of professional wrestling. And it's interesting to me that Party Wolf is known as Party Wolf. He's not known by his name. These are how these people receive
No,
Party Wolf.
that is his name.
Yes, okay, haha.
I've seen his birth
Yeah,
certificate.
it says Party Wolf.
Yeah.
But because this is how you are known to this amount of people, you can afford a level of persona, I feel. And I feel this potential of persona has been gradually diminishing over time.
I mean, yeah, a little bit. And I think that this has come from a lot of different directions, not the least of which, like I was saying, it's this notion that we have to professionalize so we can, like, pick me esports gods. But that ties into, like, we're gonna divest ourselves of the hard edges and all the stuff that is like potentially objectionable, so that we can get hopefully picked up by the esports people. That, like, is an initial position of supplication. It's initial, like, I'm gonna give away my power. I'm gonna hope that you pick me. Which ties into what we were talking about earlier of like, where is the leverage that players have, and what is the thing that we're trying to create. Uh, and it's a really hard problem to solve because of that. Because like, you get people who are really really good, and they don't want to risk anything. They're very very good at the game. They don't want to risk like missing out on
You don't want to
the
throw away
next
your big
promotion.
shot. Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't.
and I'm not gonna ever fault anybody for that. Again, 15 grand, not a lot of money, like in real terms, life changing money for a lot of people.
You're
And so,
21 and you don't really have.
hell
Yeah,
yeah,
you're living with your parents. You don't have a car. 15 grand can mean a key out.
yeah. And so that's just a real thing that we're contending with. But but at the same time, like, it leads us to this place where the players become interchangeable.
Yes. Yes, I totally
and
agree, and that
and
frustrates me.
that's yeah, and that's actually really bad. Because the thing is, if the players are interchangeable, the games are interchangeable, and at that point it's like, well, what are we doing with our time? Like, what is the point of this? And so the thing that I mentioned to you earlier, like the counterexample to these curated events, and the counterexample to a lot of this sort of, top-down command and control, like highly orchestrated esports stuff, for until recently, it was Evo, because that was organic. That was a thing that grew, and it was self-managed by the community, and so on and so forth. And now it's gone through these other permutations, and it's owned by Sony, and God knows what it will be. But but prior to all of this stuff, it proved out the notion that we can have a business model that works, and it actually works better than any other competitor, for fighting games. And it's something that can potentially foreground the players, and give players power and control, and, like, all the due respect to the integrity of the game. Like, I'm Jesus. Like, I remember, back in the Soul Calibur 2 days, there was this esports style promotion that came through, and they wanted us to play with all sorts of weird ass rules, like, best, like, 2 out of 3 rounds and things like that. But they're like, oh no, there's a giant prize pool, and a lot of people did it. I forget what it was called because the thing folded halfway through and nobody got paid out, shockingly.
Mm.
Uh, but you want to get out from under that, and I think we have to think about what the alternatives are. And now I feel sort of bad because I'm saying like, all this, I'm getting on my high horse and talking about like what the community can do and like how we're disempowered and all that in the wake of an event that was very good. So I don't want to lose sight of that. Is like the WUFL was actually really fucking good. And but this is an opportunity to kind of think about the larger issues here, and it's like, well, you know where do we want to place our bets as a community if we want this to be a thing that is big and that grows and is not like totally subject to the whims of a whole bunch of things that are beyond our control. Okay, Party Wolf. I would say WUFL is better than anything I've been to. Like, yeah, that's because it started on time. Like, the fact that WUFL started on time automatically makes it the best event that has ever happened ever in the history of anything. Like, and I'm gonna hold that. Like, I can't argue with it. I have no counter argument. It's like that is just truth.
Yeah, to its credit, it ran like a well-oiled machine. It was a very well-run weekend.
Like, yeah, and that was amazing. Like, so it was really really good. Like, what I would love to see, because we got into this like into all these hypotheticals. I want to see stuff like that, but I want to see stuff like that that acknowledges the value that the players add to it. That doesn't treat us as interchangeable. Us, them. It's really them. It ain't me at this point. But I think that's the really key thing because a lot of what we go through right now, when people think about like, should I say that, should I not say that, where should I go, what should I do, how do I comport myself, there's so much anxiety about, will I be picked,
Yes.
will I have the right people's attention, and so on. And just you know I'm an old man who's on the other side of this stuff, and I just like, I look at that and I see it as so unnecessary, because these, like, the people that are doing the picking, the people that are running these things, um they're not they're not that powerful. They're not the grand arbiters. And I would love, 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 love for a more even keeled relationship there. And that's because I think we have to find a path to that, and maybe that involves like growing audiences organically and doing a whole lot of other things, and saying like, look, pick me for your thing because this is my subscriber count and I can guarantee you these eyeballs, like whatever it takes. uh I just want to see that because I want players to get paid more. I want more players to get paid. I want players to get paid more, and I want players to get paid more reliably. And I want events to, like, partner with people as opposed to acting like they're fucking Santa Claus and just like doling out the gifts.
Makes sense. Uh, Time will tell. So I think we'll wrap that up a little bit now. I'll just say that while so Job Van Dam raises a point. I think it's a good point to end this on. So we have to start grassroots. Body users, I don't know what that means, have to start
I'm a
tournaments.
body user.
And they have to grow organically so larger businesses, so a venue can make money with. I've been kind of banging on that drum for a while now, is trying to get people to go to locals and or go back to locals. I'll say this now, I'll say it again. ATL and Virginia Beach have had locals, like a local every few months. And it has happened. There's a large vastness of space, so we're not just a bunch of sardines cramped in a bathroom. I don't know about ATL's thing, and everyone was fine, and it proved to us that it's possible. It's certainly possible to get some people together and play offline again. So what I am concerned is where these people. So a lot. local epicenters for the community were definitely, I think, Wednesday night fights in NLBC. They consistently had streams. They consistently had a wide variety of people week after week after week. Will these groups rise back to prominence when more people are comfortable traveling again and these venues are open again? Or is there going to be a shift in where these local scenes are given notice? Or is the local dead? Are we just going to wait until Jabali or whoever offers a major and then go there again and say tournaments are back? What do we do?
No, I like the local will never be dead. Like people want it too much. Um, like I'm uh, I'm looking at chat here, and I want to find ways to insult the people that are in chat.
Don't. They're
Um,
watching.
I
They're
know
actually here.
that's their problem. It's like Linkors uses his body will get in line, so does everyone else. Um, but no, like yeah, like, locals will come back. These things, I mean, people like this stuff, and I think that we're chomping at the bit for it, right? People want to get out and do stuff. Um, yeah, the the thing that would the thing that would worry me is if it's not whether or not locals come back. It's what I would rather not see is like we have locals existing on one track, and then there's this kind of parallel path that involves online events that are then channeled into invitational tournaments and things like that. And so you because you don't want to create these parallel worlds. Um, I don't like right now because I don't know of any other stuff that's coming up, right? So I can't. Uh, I'm not too worried about it. Uh, but it's a thing that could potentially happen. Like for example, if I was moderately well capitalized and I thought that there was an audience attached to fighting games and that I could get something out of that audience, and I wanted to capture them and so on and so forth. Uh, my incentives would be to kill locals from a corporate viewpoint.
Okay,
And I
so let
say,
me let me just kind
yeah,
of frame that a little more. So say you are an esports org. Your goal is to get rid of these locals. Is that what you're saying?
mhm. Yeah. So
Okay.
so again, like my thought is that locals are definitely going to come back. Um, they're definitely going to come back. The only real risk here, the only thing that I think we need to watch out for is that like you know, that again, if I you know if I thought there was money in really aggregating a fighting game audience, uh, my my first priority would be to kill the offline tournament scene. Absolutely. And this is because here's what I want, because I'm a business guy first and foremost. Hashtag business. And that means I care about things that are measurable. I want ad impressions. I want precise numbers of like viewership, and I want to be able to I want to aggregate an audience and then monetize that audience and then funnel people up, in certain ways, and I want to really control every aspect of the experience.
Make money.
Hell yeah, I want to make money.
Make
And
money.
and, and so if you're at the local, you're at the local, and you're not watching ads. You're participating in it. You're creating the content, but you're not consuming it. You're not doing anything that I can like turn around and sell to people. However, if you're participating in an online event, you are both a creator and a consumer. It's sick. I tap you on the shoulder when it's your turn to do your thing, and then otherwise I'm just gonna like sit your ass back down and feed you ads and do all these other things, and so I can count you toward my numbers. And I can create this parallel world that like starts with these online locals and feeds up to my big online whatevers. And the whole thing is entirely like monitored, understood, categorized and sold. Like so that's the risk. And if I seem like a catastrophist here and like thinking about like what are the why should we be leery of business interests? It's just because like I know how this game is played, and that sort of thing. That's the only risk that locals have because realistically we want it. It's the purest expression of what it is that we do, like our hobby, not our fucking career, not our thing that I'm gonna I'm gonna be a pro gamer. Like forget that. This like our hobby is awesome and beautiful, and the purest expression of that is just like getting together in locals and getting after it. Um, like and so that will be there until and unless someone goes out of their way to kill it, and the only way that they'll
I
do that is they'll do it with money.
I have a concern to bring up that I feel what you just said is obvious to some but not to others. I as as COVID society continues on, I find it increasingly difficult to connect with people, and I find it increasingly difficult to convince people to go outside. And I mean, and that's just a problem you'll face that problem in a lot of places. But I do feel that, and especially since what do I want to do to really better my position in regards to, say, my rent payment or my wallet? Do I want to drive an hour down to the place and meet up with the boys and potentially win $50? Or do I want to just stay home, enter the online thing, and if I win, I get $200? And I feel that question is legitimate to some players. Some players will go and say, I'll stay home. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah, like well, it's so that's really core here, and this is where I think I'm gonna be super unpopular because what are we balancing? It's like the action versus the transaction. You know, it's uh, it's playing the game and having fun and just like the experience of it versus I could win $200. Um, and look, it's not my place to tell people that they should pass up on that. Like, secure the bag. But I think in a lot of ways we all benefit if we say like this ain't my job.
Mm.
Uh, eh, you know, eh, because like I don't know, like what we do, it's at its best when it's just like raw, like competition and socialization, all that. Because I've been in this community for like over 20 years in some capacity, and I have made like amazing friendships. Is like stuff that is like has materially affected the trajectory of my life. Um, and that wasn't about the money, and and I think that I would encourage people to orient to it that way. It's like it's an amazing amazing hobby. I mean, it's not a career, but like people want it to be a career, and if it's gonna go that road, then you have to make sacrifices and you have to make like material compromises. Um, and that's just it's a very different beast, which is also why I was saying like you gotta if you're gonna make those compromises, you also gotta organize.
True. True. Do gotta organize. This is like, it's just what my brain goes to when I think of these things and the how people act around each other now. And what it leads me to fear is that given this um, reluctance to go outside, for lack of a better way to put it, is that these invitational events will become the standard. And what, and again, like you said, people are clamoring for it, but all I gotta say is I'll believe it when I see it. And I would love to see it, but I've not seen it yet.
I I refuse to accept this idea that like I refuse to accept the idea that we're done with offline stuff. I think it's too important. It matters too much. I mean, yeah, people are a little skittish about going out because, again, once in a generation global pandemic, these things, it's not a good look. But we're getting vaxxed and waxed. We're ready. We're out there, and this will change stuff. And so I'm very optimistic about that. I don't think anything is dead here. Because the other thing you have to think about is there's just not enough. There aren't enough online only events that are high profile that are gonna displace things. There aren't enough. It's not like we have a WUFL every week. So I think we'll see like a return to normality. Um, as things as things get a little less crazy and more normal and all that, which is good. Like I'm optimistic. I think we had a sick invitational event that like showed us that this game is very much alive and that people are playing super well. Um, and and now we're poised to see how that translates into like the next phase of things. It's like, okay, people are still good. This is still awesome. We'll start to open things back up, hopefully, like a little bit here, and then we can just kind of, you know,
Resume.
lurch. Yeah, we can lurch back towards something that feels reasonable, and then I guess as Party Wolf is saying, like what does Sony do with Evo? Like, I have no fucking clue what Sony will do with Evo. That could be like God only knows. Um,
I look forward to it, but I'm not excited. That's how I'm looking at it right now. Like, we'll
there's
see what
no
happens.
standard post
Post-COVID.
COVID. Ah,
Interesting. There's no yes, there's no standard post-COVID. I'm gonna dive into this.
Okay,
No
then,
standard
then
post-COVID,
we'll
but
wrap
like
it up there because we've
yeah,
been going for a
certain
while.
norms have been changed. We're figuring out what the new normal will be. But yeah, like I think that you know, I think there's just enough appetite for for offline events, things the way that they were, that like the beating heart, the pulse of our community, the things that happen most often, like will be locals. They should be in person. I really expect them to be as soon as it's viable. Um, and that like is going to hopefully like set a good precedent for things. Like because I don't think that we're well served if everything goes totally online. It's just too much grossness associated with that.
Grossness with online, you said?
Yeah. Like online is just spaghetti as hell. Like no, there was a 6 month period where
I basically couldn't play people online between the hours of 5 and 9 p.m. because everyone in America was watching Netflix, and it was bad news. Like, so it's grody. And I think that enough people are frustrated with that like, you know, I think we're kind of all waiting to get back and resume things that feel normal and like real. I mean, hell, I've even seen that like, yeah, take it outside of the gaming context. People want to get back to, they want to get back to like other social places, whether it's like parks or restaurants or bars or things like that. As they feel safe, they want to go back and like be around other human beings.
And
We'll see the same bump.
the thing is that varies from state to state. Some places, it's open like it was pre-COVID. Other places, it's still pretty locked down. It's just very interesting because in that everyone has now been given or has formed their idea of what is safe, what is like good COVID protocol, and it varies depending on who you talk to and where you are. So it's just going to be strange seeing when these events finally come back, these larger events, what is their response to the virus going to be? Are they going to mandate masks? Are they going to have workers spraying things down every couple minutes? Like these are things, at least in my job, I'm encouraged to do. Every time a customer, I work in meetings, every time a customer comes, you need to spray it with some disinfectant and wipe it down. And so whether that's effective or not, there are conflicting stories going either way. But
Yeah, like I I don't know, like in my case, I got vaccinated, and then as soon as I was as soon as I was ready to go there, like okay, I've achieved my immunity, then I went, I immediately like swiped in, got on the subway, started licking poles. Uh, because I wanted to get back to that sense of just disgusting grime. Hashtag New York. Uh, but no, one of the things that will, like, what I would like to see offline events take away from this is I want to see I want to see masks become more normalized if you're sick. Um, because like let's be optimistic. Let's point toward a future where we can all get back together, have our big ass stupid events, have fun, get weird, talk shit, and then at the end of it, we'll all go home and like everyone won't like get strep throat afterward because that one jackass who was sick would have worn a mask the whole time. That's what I want, and I think that if we, this is the most optimistic of readings, sure, but like maybe we can get to that place. That would be a beautiful thing
yeah,
because I
no more
hate all of you disgusting, gross people with your horrible fucking germs. And all of you, like, again, the last 20 years of my life, I have had to put up with the fact that you make me sick. Like, it literally, like, when I go to these damn tournaments.
I'm just saying, man, I've been going to tournaments for 9 years. I have never once gotten sick from a tournament. I don't know what
Well,
that says about us, but
yeah, well, okay,
I'm
that
fine.
says that. Well, I am a refined person with delicate sensibilities. You're like obviously trash.
Uh-huh.
Like like
You know,
and you have a
B-
healing factor.
born in the gutter, so I just bounces off me. Healing factor.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm a bubble boy. It's terrible.
ah,
Uh
damn.
but oh boy. Okay, so yeah, we've covered a lot of ground here. It was like mostly esoteric. Uh but hopefully it was interesting-ish for people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Any closing statements?
closing statements. Well, look, like I said, we covered a lot of ground. Hope it was interesting. So just restating that. There's a lot of stuff going on that's kind of at the intersection of high level gameplay, like community organization and structure, business stuff, all these things. Like these are the things that I find really interesting. I would love to talk about those things more. I would love to find better ways to engage with people and like really get a conversation going and have substantive things happening. And so if people are interested in that, like I would say let us know and let us know how we can do better. Like
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing for me is that if there's any kind of appetite for this, if people care at all, cause then like tell us how to do a better job and how to get more people involved because I think this stuff, this is what I sit around thinking about generally. And I think it's like kind of in some ways really crucial for us as we go forward. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
great. Yeah, all I can really say is support your locals. I want to challenge anyone who has a local to take a picture with everybody and post it on, I guess, Twitter, because that's where everyone posts on. Just to have some kind of visibility that we, in fact, talk to each other and interact in person. I feel a lot of people would like to see that, me included. And on what Hate said, yeah, this was a test run. We
Yeah.
don't know what the reaction to this was going to be, whether or not just be apathy, aggression, agreement, any
I
of
wanted
those.
aggression. Like
Aggression.
that's
It,
yeah, I was really hoping for that.
we didn't throw down too hard, insulting people. So maybe in a potential future one, we can be a bit more aggressive and really ream someone for no good reason. But anyway, uh, Please let us know what you think. I will be uploading this to my YouTube channel, and I'll probably have a Twitter thread too to open up for feedback. If this were to continue, we would cover other topics and also get guests on here as well to help talk about those
Right.
topics. For this first one, just want to do just us to see if it even worked in the first place.
Yeah, just so y'all know, like one part of my vision is I want to start fights. I like I want to like get people who don't like each other and force them to talk. Like,
Okay?
and by talk I mean yell.
Yell.
That's good.
So
Oh,
it,
what? Hold on. I'm catching up here. Like Ramon, like you are the fizz bitch. I am not a fizz bitch. This is just settled fact. Whatever. And Party Wolf, I think your cat should reconsider.
yeah, cat
Make it listen
sucks.
to the whole thing again from the start.
Stupid cat.
Like just over and over. Like 'cause that's the thing is, if you didn't like it at first, just listen again and again and again until it wears you down. Because I really think that we have a lot of personal charisma.
Yeah. Okay. So on that, we're open to feedback. Please give us all of it. We'll catch you next time, maybe. Bye bye.
Like,